A tariff rebate is in the cards, and should you invest in crypto? Well, we're going to show you guys why you might. My name is Paul Barrow. Welcome back into the show. It's going to be a good one today. I do want to thank our sponsor at iTrust Capital. In fact, you could use your tariff rebate to go in and start your own crypto IRA, and you can do it over at iTrust Capital. You should be looking at IRAs anyway. This is a great way to look at long-term wealth. It's a great tax haven. A lot of benefits for it. Just use our link down below. It's going to give you a $100 funding reward just to get started, so check it out. Let's go over to a couple points I want to hit on. We put a video out quite a while ago. It was in reference to the Doge dividend. The Doge dividend, if you look at it, was a good idea. The problem, of course, was Elon was unable to go in and retrieve the kinds of trillions of dollars that were supposedly out there in overspending. That, of course, is now starting to loom because it's shifted over to tariffs. And, of course, the amount of money that we've collected off of tariffs is going to change things up a little bit. Take a look at this clip.
Here's the deals you've done so far. We've got the United Kingdom, Philippines, Indonesia, Japan, Vietnam, and now the European Union.
Basically, what he's going to do is he's going to set the tariff rate for everybody and do that by the end of the week. The European Union is going to pay 15%. So basically, everything they send us is going to pay 15%.
Is the EU guaranteeing there'll be an additional $600 billion in investments in the U.S.?
The European Union put together all of their companies, all their businesses that they could then give to President Trump and said, we are committed to building in America.
But if it's coming from private companies, obviously it can't be a part of a trade framework, but they're saying they're going to do it, right?
Yes.
All right. So point being here is that we're seeing all of these tariff increases in terms of collecting money coming from 6 countries. You saw the list right there of all these other countries that are going to be going into effect on August 1st. Here's a chart that kind of gives you an example of the differences that we've seen over the last few years, 2017, 18, all the way up here to 2022 and where we were versus now, 126 bill. So definitely a lot of growth in a very short period of time, but only from a few countries. So this could generate a significant windfall in terms of tariff fees in general. And this is what Trump had to say, and I think this is where it starts around this rebate. Take a look.
You heard of the Doge dividend. Well, how about a tariff tip?
We have so much money coming in, we're thinking about a little rebate, but the big thing we want to do is pay down debt. A little rebate for people of a certain income level might be very nice.
The money's been taken from people already, so to credit it back, and he said for certain people of a certain income level, I think that's questionable because people of other income levels have paid into this too. I think we've given out enough stimulus and
disagreeing with the fact that we should have a rebate.
Is $1,200 really going to make a difference?
Call me crazy, but wouldn't that be inflationary?
Yeah, anytime you give people more money, they're going to spend it. And if they spend it, in theory, that's inflationary. Yes.
That says to me, uh-oh.
Should that money really go to you?
Walmart raising prices up to 51%.
Do you think it'll raise the cost of medicines?
Well, it might raise the cost of some medicines.
I'm not sure we're going to be able to hold our pricing here in the second half of the year.
Your home electricity prices may rise again next year. Some of these numbers are stunning.
They're doing that because they're not going to eat the tariff. They're going to pass it on to you.
We got so much money rolling in now. I'm thinking about it.
Kevin, do you like this idea?
No.
Another stimulus check? Give me my stimmy.
So a lot of points here. I think, as you can see, there's a lot of different opinions here. Josh Hawley kind of seized the moment. He, of course, introduced a bill to send tariff rebate checks to Americans. A couple of points he hit on that bill was that we're getting into, one, a certain level that would get a certain amount, this based on your income. But even people making more than $75K would end up getting only 5% less, at least in this bill. So how much would this cost us if this were going to be the case? If you compare this to what happened during COVID and you kind of consider the $600 in comparison, this would be a fraction of what that $814 billion that handled the amounts of stimulus back then. So about $150 billion. So that is already almost achieved with what our current tariff income has been, and that's without all these new tariffs going into effect on August 1st. All right, so you guys are probably thinking, oh, $600, it's not going to change my way of life. It's not going to really affect anything. But in reality, if you just take that money and start to invest in it, if you'd have done the same thing with the money that we got from COVID in terms of the stimulus checks, that was $1,200. That investment right now, if you'd have done it in gold, right now would have about doubled your investment. That's with gold. Nvidia stock, right, this would be worth around $16,000. That $1,200. So not a bad deal. But now you start to take a look at the digital assets. Bitcoin would be worth around 20 grand. So now we're starting to get into a lot of changes within your lifestyle, all sorts of things. That's a 5-year hold, 20 grand off of $1,200. One thing to consider, if you're looking at what assets to go into, this is a good example of what's going on within Bitcoin treasury companies. This was Antelope Enterprises. They sank 30% after unveiling their $50 million Bitcoin buy. This was, again, spooking investors a little bit. The point being is maybe there is a cycle that we've already started to see out of Bitcoin. And if that is the case, well, what would be the assets that you could go into? One of them that I'll show you right here. Here, of course, is XRP. If you'd have bought that same 1,200, 21,000 would be where you would be today. If you take a look further into this, and now you compare this to Ethereum, that's the kind of thing that you'd be looking at around 17,000, but if you had staked that, it's around 20 to 21,000. Remember, tokenized stocks are starting to play into this market right now, so that's another opportunity that's going to most likely become huge going forward. eToro just announced their deal, U.S. stocks now on Ethereum's blockchain. We already see this. Robinhood's coming at it. This is going to be a big part of the market. And then if you kind of compare, as an example right here, this is the chain that most of these tokenized stocks are riding on. This is a Solana. Had you done this with Solana, you would already, that same $1,200, you would already be a millionaire if you'd have done just the staking. Let me kind of zoom in on that for you guys. Holding no staking around 915,000 on that $1,200. 1.2 million on that $1,200 if you were just staking it and continuing to push it into it. So those are the kind of opportunities that are out there. And I think the market is set up for potentially where this may go. Just take a look at tokenized stocks and the companies, just a handful. This is just one of the tokenized stocks that are out there. Back Finance, this is X stocks, already starting to see an explosion. And this is just the beginning, guys. We are in the very early stage of this. So it may have a lot of similarities to 2020, where we were in the very early stage of a lot of these digital assets starting to explode to where they are now. All right, so I'm not telling you guys to do this, but this is one example of leverage plays. This is just taking tokenized stocks, putting leverage into it. This is coming from Loopscale. And then I've got a clip here that explains it even further on XRP. Take a look.
Just what can you tell us about how much investor interest there is in XRP?
There's enormous interest in XRP. They call it the XRP Army, and I realize they call it that for a reason. And the money that's come in is quite extraordinary. Hundreds of millions of dollars have come in. It is our most successful fund. We had filed for Bitcoin before, and we do have crypto interest. They clearly want some leverage. We got a great ticker, double XRP, XXRP, and it took off. It was a big hit immediately right out the door. We've never seen a response like that.
And if you could put on a forecasting hat, where do you think else in the crypto sphere?
Honestly, I think picking the next coin is harder. People need to catch the wave of what crypto and the blockchain is doing to business. Picking the companies that are going to use whatever cryptocurrency comes next is going to be the big trick and the trick to big wealth.
Do you think that there is going to be an ETF boom?
No question.
All right.
All right, so think of that now, guys, because we are maybe in that very point where there's a lot of these emerging projects that weren't around 5 years ago that are now starting to come around. Of course, when we talk about tokenized stocks, that wasn't even thought of at that time, and we're starting to see the biggest exchanges out there starting to move in this direction. So what did people do with that stimulus back then? Many people kind of thought they were just spending it, driving it into the economy, causing inflation to go up. That's not really the case. Nearly 1 in 10 Americans have now used stimulus checks to invest in crypto. And if you look further into it right here, this was come from the Harris poll, 15% of Americans who received the last 2 stimulus checks invested part or all their money of those checks, and about half of that group invested specifically in cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum. So there was a lot of winners, a lot of winners. If they were holding today, they came out of that in a huge way, in many cases millionaires. And if you look further into this, Americans use the money to pay for necessities, only 43%. But the rest put money in their savings, 33%, and or to pay down debt. So 63% were going into savings or paying down debt. So that's not adding to the economy in any portion. So that is another factor to compare. So last up I want to hit on is, even if you'd have gone into a meme coin, this is Doge, good example, one of the highest market cap meme coins, the highest market cap meme coin out there right now, 1,200 at Dogecoin on April 11th. That would have been worth now approximately $57,000 to $58,000. So that's another big point. And if you look at the market cap just right here on Doge of where we were back in 2020 versus where we are now, considerably. So the real question is, what would you pick today? You have to think about 5 years from now, not right now, but 5 years from now, looking at the strategy, whether you go in the Solana ecosystem because of tokenized stocks, you look at the Ethereum ecosystem because of the explosion in ETFs, XRP because of what we're going to see there in terms of international payments, then also look at the retail side of it. And one of them, of course, that we're watching is Pengu, and whether or not they get partnerships. And if you split your bag up and only take 10% of that and start to push it into something like, say, a Pengu, that at point is where you start to see these meme coin opportunities, because it could actually outperform the rest of your portfolio, much like many of the meme coins have already done. If you compare that right now of where Pengu is getting ready, they're holding at 43. This is the 43rd top market cap token out there, getting ready to flip Bonk, which is a legend in the space right now. If that happens and starts to move into where it can challenge Shiba or even Doge, this would be an unbelievable growth. So again, these are the kind of things that are plays that make up the future. Now, if you don't like any of that and you say, hey, I'm looking for something super simple and very easy, well, then you can just look at stablecoins. Even with stablecoins, now you start to look at the percentages. One thing I'll show you right here as an example, there's Aave right there, but further on down, boom, RLUSD over on Aave, 9% on a stablecoin RLUSD over on the Aave ecosystem. So these are good ones to consider. Right here on More Finance, this is another one. There's Flow. This is the PayPal token. So again, paying out considerable amount right now on a stablecoin. If you look in the AVAX ecosystem, here of course is Black Hole. Even if you go into tokenized gold and what it's doing right there, boom, 40% right now, and that's with USDC, a stablecoin. Those are the kind of things that are happening in this space, and I think this era of investor is starting to look at these kinds of alternatives. All right, guys, so that's kind of a roundup on this. What do you do with this tariff rebate? I think this may come to be, and if it does, and you start to go into these things, maybe you'll be talking about being a millionaire in a few years. We'll see how it all plays out. I'm not promising any of that, but I'm just showing you the opportunities that are out there in the market. If you're not in the Diamond Circle, get in on that. It's a great place to get additional content from me. And follow me out there on X, @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on The Paul Barron Show.